Good morning all my dear students. It is our last lecture of fuel. In this lecture we will learn what is refining of petroleum, at the same time hydrogen as future fuel, its storage, transportation, its production, that we will see in hydrogen as future fuel. Liquid fuel. In liquid fuel we will see petroleum. It is also called as crude oil. It is important primary liquid fuel. It is dark colored viscous oil and it is found deep in Earth's crust. It is believed to have been formed millions of years ago by anaerobic decay of marine plant and animal life under the influence of high temperature and pressure. So it is non-renewable source of energy. It is mainly a complex mixture of hydrocarbons, like it can be straight chain paraffins, cycloparaffins, olefins and aromatics. It is a mixture of all these with small amount of organic compounds, and that can contain nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur and some traces of inorganic compounds. If we will see only elemental analysis of this crude oil, so it can be on an average percentage of carbon, it can vary from 83 to 87%, hydrogen 11 to 15%. So because of these two, we can get huge calorific value from this crude oil. With carbon and hydrogen, it contains sulfur and oxygen. Its percentage, it may vary, but it can be up to 3%. Nitrogen and oxygen, it can be from 0.1 to 5%. Depending on which type of hydrocarbons are there, petroleum, it is divided into three types. First type, it is paraffin based, that is major component it is paraffin. So it contains saturated hydrocarbons from CH4 to C35H32. With that, it may contain some little naphthalines, aromatics. From C18H38 onwards, resins and waxes are there. Second type, it is asphaltic based. It contains mainly cycloparaffins, so naphthalines, like with little of paraffin and aromatic. Third type, it is mixed. It may contain paraffin and asphaltic hydrocarbons are there. Mining of petroleum. How mining of petroleum it is done? Mining of petroleum, it is done by drilling holes in the earth crust. Through the holes, pipes are sunk up to oil bearing rocks. Then usually, or because of the pressure of natural gas, that oil itself it come out. If it will not come, mechanically it may be pumped out using airlift pump. Two coaxial pipes are there in that oil bed. Compressed air is forced through the outer pipe, and because of that, oil it will come out from the inner pipe, and then this oil is then conveyed to refinery through the pipelines, and there the next process, that is refining of that petroleum, it is done. After mining of that petroleum, now the next step, it is refining of petroleum. Petroleum, we can't use it as a fuel, as it is complex mixture of number of hydrocarbons, and that hydrocarbons may be in the form of solid, liquid or gaseous. So we can't use it as a fuel, or we can't use it as a feedstock for some chemicals. So its separation, it is done. It is the process of separation of crude oil into different useful fractions on the basis of their boiling points. That is nothing but the refining. Now it is done in three steps. First, it is separation of water. Oil, it is with water, so it will form an emulsion. So in first step, we have to remove that water. So this emulsion is passed through highly charged electrodes. Their water, it will form a big droplet, and then we can separate it out easily. This process, it is called as Cottrell's process. Then in next step, removal of sulfur, it is done. This oil, it is treated with copper oxide, and there it will form copper sulfide. this precipitate we can remove it by filtration. So in second step we have to remove that sulfur, because if we will use that as a fuel, then sulfur it will form some harmful gases. So first of all we have to remove that sulfur. So that is the second step. And then the third and very important step, it is fractional distillation. So now the crude oil which is water free, which is sulfur free, now its fractional distillation it is done on the basis of different boiling points. So this process we have to see now. Third important step, it is fractional distillation. What is principle of this fractional distillation? It is the vapors of higher boiling point fractions condense first during the stepwise cooling. I will explain that principle of this fractional distillation, but first of all we will see the construction of this fractionating tower. This it is of stainless steel, and this it is tall and cylindrical. This it is having number of small trays, and these are of stainless steel. Each tray or that each horizontal plate, it is having loosely held bubble cups. Through that vapors of that crude oil it can pass through. So now process we will see. First of all, that crude oil it is heated up to 400 degrees centigrade, and then it is passed through that fractionating tower. But first fraction, or actually fraction it is means it is the constituent. So one constituent or first fraction it will come out as it is, because its boiling point it is more than that of 400 degrees centigrade. Other than that, all it is in the form of vapors. So that vapors it will pass through that loosely held bubble cups. They will travel from bottom to top. Now first fraction, first constituent, it comes out as a residue. So the principle, what is that principle? Principle, it is the vapors of higher boiling point condense first, and that first fraction it will come out. But other than that, like the fuel oil, diesel oil, kerosene, so these are having less than that of boiling point than that of 400. So it will travel through that loosely held bubble cups. Now first constituent or first fraction it will come out, which one? That is the fuel oil, or it is also called as heavy oil. Its boiling point it is 320 to 400. So that will come out first, because the temperature at that it is only up to 320. So it will condense, and then it will be in the form of liquid, and then we can collect it. Then the next it is diesel. As its boiling point it can be up to 250 to 320. So that it will condense, and then it will be in the form of liquid. We can separate it out. Likewise, the fractions or that constituents it will come out as depends on their boiling point. Depends on their boiling point, it will condense and then it will come out. So first of all, residue, fuel oil, diesel oil, kerosene, naphtha, gasoline, and one fraction it will remain as it is, because its boiling point it is less than that of 30 degrees centigrade. So it will remain as it is. We can use it as a liquefied petroleum gas. So as we go from bottom to top, we can see that the molecule size it will be small. This it is having low boiling point. This it is very volatile, and it flows easily and it ignites very easily. But if we will go from bottom to if we will go from top to bottom, then the molecules are having large size, high boiling point. These are not volatile, does not flow easily, and does not ignite easily. So this it is the fractional distillation. Again, what is the principle of that? That fraction or that constituent it will come out first. It will condense first, whichever it is having higher boiling point. Other than that, all fractions will travel through that bubble cups, and step by step there will be cooling. Step by step we can collect that constituents. So here again the principle it is given. The vapors of higher boiling point fractions condense first during the stepwise cooling. The crude oil freed from water and sulfur is first heated in a preheater. Its temperature it is up to 400 degrees centigrade. The vapors are then fed into a specially designed large bubble cup fractionating column. The volatile components condense on the upper plates of the fractionating column, while the less volatile fraction is collected on the lower plates. Then this it is the table given here, the name of fraction, boiling range, its approximate composition and its uses. So that table it is given. Here we will start from the top. So the uncondensed gas, which is whichever it is having boiling point less than that of 30 degrees centigrade, its composition it is from C1 to C4. So this LPG, its use it is domestic or industrial fuel. Then the next fraction it will be petroleum ether. Its boiling range it is 30 to 70 degrees centigrade. Its composition C5 to C7 and use it is as a solvent. Next one it is gasoline or it is petrol. So 40 to 120 it is its boiling range and composition it is C5 to C9. This it is motor fuel or it is also used as a solvent. In dry cleaning we can use it. Then the next one it is naphtha. Its boiling range it is 120 to 180. Composition C9 to C10. It can be used as a solvent in dry cleaning. Kerosene 180 to 250, C10 to C16, and it can be used as a domestic fuel or as a rocket fuel also it can be used. Next one it is diesel, boiling range 250 to 320, composition C16 to C18. It can be used as a motor fuel. Then the heavy oil, then this it is having boiling range 320 to 400, composition C17 to C30, and number of uses are given. And last one it is residue. Now here, dear students, you have to remember the boiling range, because now your exam paper pattern, it can be multiple choice questions, and in that multiple choice question, this table it can come. You have to learn this table, because in that boiling range it can be asked, or its composition it can be asked. If uses are asked, then that is not a problem, because these uses are general uses, so you can learn it. But this boiling range and composition and also the sequence, how that means from top to bottom or bottom to top, so that sequence it should be correct. That sequence also you have to learn. Now next we have to see some gaseous fuel. Why gaseous fuels are important? These gaseous fuel have very high calorific value, and these burn clean without smoke or ash. As there is no any inorganic matter, there is no formation of ash, but it will burns clean without formation of any smoke, and this it is clear burning, no formation of any harmful gas. Combustion it is controllable, and this control it is very easy. Highly flammable, that is only the problem. So we have to take special care have to be taken. First gaseous fuel it is natural gas. This it is very important gaseous fuel. What is composition of this natural gas? Its main constituent of that natural gas it is methane. It can be up to 90%. So its minimum it is 70. So 70 to 90% methane is there. Other than that, ethane it is there. Its percentage it can be from 5 to 10%. Then propane 3 to 4%, and some butane. If it is, then the butane it is there. This it can have also nitrogen, hydrogen, carbon dioxide, or H2S, and water it is there. Now two types of natural gas are there, dry gas and wet gas. Dry gas means it contains only methane, no other hydrocarbon, no higher hydrocarbon it is there. So only methane if it is there, that is called as dry gas. And if other than methane, if some higher hydrocarbons are there, then that is called as wet gas. Before using that natural gas, we have to purify that natural gas by removing its water, dust, or if gases are there like CO2, N2, H2. So all that we have to first of all remove. We have to purify it. And what are the properties of this natural gas? Its calorific value, it is very good, and that is 12,000 to 14,000 kilocalorie per meter cube. It burns clean with non-smoky flame. Its products, it will be only CO2 and H2O. Number of applications are there of this natural gas. This, it is excellent domestic fuel. We can use it as it is as a fuel, or we can compress it and liquefy it, and then we can use it as a fuel. This, it is used in manufacturing of number of chemicals like methanol, acetic acid. So this, it is very good feedstock for number of chemicals. This, it is raw material for carbon black and hydrogen also. Fermentation of methane, it is done to give proteins. This, it is used as a source of hydrocarbons for electricity in fuel cells. We have to see that fuel cell in detail. In that fuel cell, we can use that natural gas for production of hydrogen, and then hydrogen and oxygen, it will give us an electricity. So hydrogen as it is, we can't store because of number of difficulties are there. So one step it is added there in that fuel step in fuel cell. So that methane, it is there, and that methane, it is converted in terms of hydrogen, and then that hydrogen, it is used in that fuel cell. We have to see that fuel cell in detail. Then the last application, it is major feedstock for ammonia production. Why ammonia production it is important? Because this, it is used in fertilizers. So this ammonia production, it is very important application. So for that, natural gas, it is used. Next gaseous fuel, it is CNG, compressed natural gas. Natural gas, it is compressed to 1000 atmospheric pressure. Which natural gas we have to use? That is dry. Dry, it is means no higher hydrocarbons are there. If it is there, then that its percentage, it is too low. NG, it is not having any odor. So to detect leakage, if any, we have to add some sulfur. Natural gas, it is lighter than air, so significantly safe for its use. Composition, it is main constituent, naturally it is methane. Its percentage, it is 70 to 90%. Ethane, it can be 10 to 20%. Propane, it can be up to 2 to 8%. What are the properties of this CNG? Whenever there is the combustion of this CNG, no pollutants like sulfur, nitrogen or carbon particle will form, because on its combustion there will be formation of only CO2 and H2O, because reactants are only hydrocarbons. So hydrocarbons on its complete combustion will form CO2 and H2O. So no formation of any harmful gas. Ignition temperature, it is higher, that is 550. So but here more air it is required for ignition. Complete combustion, if it is, then formation of CO2, but if less combustion it is there, or incomplete combustion is there, there is formation of less amount of carbon monoxide. CNG mixes better with air than that of liquid fuel. CNG requires heavier and voluminous tanks, not suitable for smaller vehicles. For smaller vehicles we can't use it, because this, it requires voluminous tank, as it is lighter than that of air. What are the applications? We can use it as an automobile fuel, and this, it can be used for production of hydrogen and carbon black. Other than CNG, NG, one more and very good fuel, it is hydrogen gas. Hydrogen gas, it is called as future fuel, because hydrogen, it is having very good calorific value. At the same time, this, it is renewable source of energy. Nowadays whatever fuels we are using, that fuel, petrol, diesel, so that is from crude oil. So these fuels are fossil fuel. At some point it will finish. After that as a fuel, what we can use? So there we are finding number of fuels non-conventional fuels we are finding. So this hydrogen, this it is having very good calorific value. There will be complete combustion of that hydrogen, there will be production of H2O only. So this it is called as future fuel. Why it is called as future fuel, or what makes hydrogen gas as future fuel? Because this it is non-toxic, clean burning. Whenever there will be complete combustion of that H2, there will be formation of only H2O. This it is having high calorific value. We can compare that calorific value with fossil fuel, because any fuel if we want to use, then first of all our demand or our need it is, we have to compare that with fossil fuel. If it is comparable, then only we can use it as a fuel. This it is most abundant element on earth. So this it is, because of that we can say that hydrogen gas as future fuel. But at the same time, number of difficulties or hurdles are there for that hydrogen gas. Which are these difficulties? Its production is expensive and inefficient. Whatever methods we are using for its production, still, so that methods are expensive, and from there we can't get pure hydrogen, or these methods are not that much efficient. Then one more and very important difficulty, it is its storage and transportation. Because of its low density and because of its explosiveness, so its storage and transportation, that is also big hurdles in that. But then also, so we are doing research on that, and at some point we have to use that hydrogen as a fuel. So research we are doing on that. Now we have to see some methods of production of hydrogen. From fossil fuel, water, biomass, from there we can produce that hydrogen. Some different methods are there, like steam reforming is there, thermochemical is there, partial oxidation is there, and electrolysis of water it is there. From these methods we can produce hydrogen, but majorly hydrogen it is produced by steam reforming. So we have to see now steam reformation of hydrogen. So now we will see industrial production of hydrogen by steam reforming. So here steam reforming of methane, that is from natural gas it is done. This methane, this it is mixed with steam, and this it is passed over nickel catalyst. How much temperature is there? It is 700 to 1000 degrees centigrade. Then because of this reaction, there will be formation of water gas. Water gas is CO plus 3H2. What is the reaction of this CH4 plus H2O? With nickel catalyst, it will give us water gas, that is CO plus 3H2. Separation of H2 here, this it is somewhat difficult, and to get more amount of hydrogen, so next step it is done, and the next step it is water gas shift reaction. So that gas from that steam reformer, this it is mixed with more steam, and it is cooled to 400 degrees centigrade. In steam reforming of methane, temperature it can be up to 1000. So here it is cooled to 400 degrees centigrade, and it is passed through shift converter. And which catalyst we have to use here? Iron copper catalyst it is used here. In first reaction, nickel it is used as a catalyst. In second, it is iron copper it is used as a catalyst. In first temperature it is 700 to 1000. In second temperature it is cooled down to 400. Here which reaction it is there? Carbon monoxide plus H2O, it will give us CO2 plus H2. So more amount of hydrogen here we will get in this second reaction. And then now the problem it is only the separation of that CO2 from the H2. Two methods are there by which separation it is done. First method it is CO2 it is dissolved in water under high pressure, or it is reacted with K2CO3. Any one method we can use it, and then separation of that CO2 from that H2 it is done, and then that H2 we can use it as a fuel. Same steam reforming of coke it is also done. Only the thing is that in steam reforming of methane, feedstock it is methane, that is source it is methane, and here in place of that methane it is coke. Coke, what is that coke? Coke, it is obtained by heating coal at high temperature. So there, from that coal, other than carbon, that like moisture, volatile matter, this it is removed, and then whatever we are getting, that is nothing but the coke. This method, it is steam reforming of coke. This method, it is cheap method. Here, which catalyst we have to use? Same, it is nickel. Temperature, it is also 1000 degrees centigrade. Coke and that steam, it is reacted, and then we are getting same like that water gas, CO plus H2. To get more amount of hydrogen, this it is means with second reaction it is also done, that is water gas shift reaction. So this gaseous mixture, it is mixed with steam, and then it is cooled to 400 degrees centigrade. Here which catalyst we have to use? That is Fe2O3 in that shift converter. And then what will happen? There will be formation of CO2 plus H2. Any one method that we can use to separate out CO2 from H2. Which one method it is? CO2, it is removed by dissolving that in water under high pressure, or we can react it with K2CO3. So any one method we can use it, and then separation of that H2 from that CO2 it is done, and then that H2 it can be stored somewhere, and then we can use it. Here for MCQ purpose, you have to remember the catalyst, you have to remember the temperature also, and the reaction. Number of applications are there of this natural gas. This it is excellent domestic fuel. We can use it as it is as a fuel, or we can compress it and liquefy it, and then we can use it as a fuel. This it is used in manufacturing of number of chemicals like methanol, acetic acid. So this it is very good feedstock for number of chemicals. This it is raw material for carbon black and hydrogen also. Fermentation of methane it is done to give proteins. This it is used as a source of hydrocarbons for electricity in fuel cells. We have to see that fuel cell in detail. In that fuel cell, we can use that natural gas for production of hydrogen, and then hydrogen and oxygen, it will give us an electricity. So hydrogen as it is we can't store because of number of difficulties are there. So one step it is added there in that fuel step in fuel cell. So that methane it is there, and that methane it is converted in terms of hydrogen, and then that hydrogen it is used in that fuel cell. We have to see that fuel cell in detail. Then the last application it is major feedstock for ammonia production. Why ammonia production it is important? Because this it is used in fertilizers. So this ammonia production it is very important application. So for that natural gas it is used. Again, that storage and transport of hydrogen it is given here. For using hydrogen as fuel, its storage it is very important. So first method that we can use, physical storage. In that first one it is compression. So here that hydrogen it is compressed, and then we can fill it in some small tanks. But here again, for that compression, it will require more energy we have to spend there, and then it will adds in its cost. Second method, it is liquefaction, and here we have to maintain that cryogenic temperature. So this it is also not that much useful method. This it is expensive method. Then the next one, it is adsorption on porous carbon nanomaterials. Any nanomaterial that like fullerene, graphene, that we can, carbon nanotubes, that we can use it. But still calculation is to be done, still research is to be done, that which method it can be ideal method. This one, it is unique method, novel method for storage of any fuel. For other fuels we are not using this one, but here what we are doing, that hydrogen it is stored in the form of metal hydride. This method it is safe and efficient. So that metal or that alloy, it is reacted with hydrogen, there is formation of that metal hydride. Then on board at low temperature and pressure, this it is heated, and then we can get that hydrogen, it will release that hydrogen, and that hydrogen we can use it as a fuel, or whatever that it's used, that we can use it. The second, it is like metal hydride, it can be stored in the form of sodium alanites also. So here what are the difficulties in storage and transportation of hydrogen, that we will see. So first one, it is with compressed hydrogen. High pressure tanks are required, which will reduce the fuel economy. Energy it will consume for compression of that hydrogen. Decarbonization it will be there of that steel cylinders. If we are liquefying that, then the liquid hydrogen more efficient than gaseous hydrogen, but this it is energy we have to spend in cooling and in liquefying that hydrogen. And one more, it is we have to maintain that temperature, whatever that minus temperature, that we have to maintain. Good insulation it should be there, otherwise there will be boil off, and this increases weight, volume and cost of the tank. So no one method it is there still that is ideal for storage and transportation of this hydrogen. Still we have to do some research on that, and then we can find out some ideal method, so that we can use that hydrogen as a future fuel. Though number of difficulties are there in storage and transportation, its production of hydrogen, but then also this hydrogen it is a future fuel. Why? Because this it is having number of applications, and because of that we have to do research on that, and so that we will find out some good method for its production, for its storage and for its transportation. These number of applications are there, like we can use it as a fuel, we can replace that fossil fuels by this hydrogen. Then for production of ammonia, hydrogen it is the natural feedstock. For metal refining, extraction of that metal, we have to use that hydrogen. Then number of other uses are there. For electricity generation, that is also very good use of this hydrogen. So because of that, number of research we have to do. So number of applications are there, but as a fuel, what are the applications of H2? H2 can be used as a rocket fuel because of its good calorific value. Then it can be used as a fuel in IC engine or in fuel cell also. What is that? The hydrogen in IC engine, it is similar to that of petrol engine. Here that hydrogen it reacts with oxygen to produce hot gases which move the engine parts. This it is one application. But what is that second? A fuel cell is a device that uses hydrogen and oxygen to generate electricity by an electrochemical reaction. Why it is called as a cell? Because there is the electrochemical reaction, there is formation of a cell, that is electrochemical cell. Two electrodes are there, and these two electrodes are separated by an electrolyte. So here, depending on which type of hydrocarbons are there, petroleum it is divided into three types. First type it is paraffin based, that is major component it is paraffin. So it contains saturated hydrocarbons from CH4 to C35H32. With that, it may contain some little naphthalines, aromatics. From this diagram of fuel cell, it will be more clear to you. This it is one example of that fuel cell. This it is PAFC. What is that? Phosphoric acid fuel cell. Now, what is that PAFC fuel cell? This it is two compartments are there. In one compartment, we have to fill our H2, and in another, oxygen it is filled. So that fuel cell, it is having two electrodes, cathode and anode, and these two electrodes are separated by an electrolyte. Which electrolyte that is there? That is phosphoric acid. So now hydrogen, it is at anode and their catalyst it is there. So because of that, this hydrogen, it will split up into protons and electrons. Now these protons and electrons, it will try to pass through that electrolyte. Which electrolyte is there? That is phosphoric acid. But this electrolyte will allow passage of only protons. It will not allow passage of that electrons. So electrons will travel through that external circuit, and then it will produce that electricity. Then these protons will pass through that electrolyte, and then it will react with oxygen and with electron, and then it will produce that water. So this one, it is the fuel cell. Here again I will explain that two compartments are there. In that first we have to fill hydrogen, in second oxygen is there, and these two are separated by an electrolyte. Electrolyte, it is such that it will allow passage of only protons. It will not allow passage of electrons. So that hydrogen, because of that catalyst, it will split up into protons and electrons. Protons will pass through that electrolyte, but electrons will pass through the external circuit. It will produce that electricity, and then that protons with O2 with that electrons, it will form water. So here one byproduct it is, with electricity we can get that water. Fuel cells are stacked to generate enough electric energy to power that vehicle. For that vehicle, we will require more electric energy, and for that electric energy we can't get from one fuel cell. So we have to stack number of fuel cells, we have to stack, and then we can get the required electric energy from that fuel cell. So this it is for hydrogen as a future fuel. Thank you very much.